was gonna say there's nothing to it yet.
Hey everyone, welcome to Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. This is episode 229. So
Yep.
I mean, crazy. I know it's hard to believe. So today I think we were going to talk, and I know it was my idea, so it should be really clear. Journey versus destination, I believe, is what the topic was.
Yeah. I mean, what I threw in was the journey. Oh gosh, now I actually need to see what I threw in there.
Oh,
The
oh,
journey or the stay.
yeah, yeah. So what this was about, and I've watched a few videos in the last little while, and I was thinking about some of the stuff I've been doing the last little while, and different types of camping. And I think you really can break it down to three, but two main things, and everything else is some kind of spectrum in between. And you have like camping at a specific destination, so it doesn't really matter how you get there. The goal is to get there and just spend all your time while you're there. So this is like your car camping at a campground, like the trip.
Apparently, they can't hear you, Ben. We have Nomadic Hacker joining us there. He's saying he can't hear your audio. When you're talking, do you see your little audio input flickering there? If not, you may have to set your input.
Hello, can you hear me
Almost
now?
full.
Does this work?
I can hear you fine. Let's look up OBS and see if like the audio is flickering there.
No. Desktop edit webcam.
We're gonna
Hey,
figure it out eventually, folks.
it shows that it's receiving my message, so check and see if anyone hears it.
Can you hear that now, Hacker? Or you still with us? I assume. I'll give it a second here. I can always edit off the first little bit for a minute or two. Now I can. Okay, we're good.
Perfect. Okay. Sorry about that. So we'll start again.
Sure.
Hello, everyone. Atlantic. Welcome to Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Our genius co-host here, Robert, will edit the first few seconds of this out in the future episode.
Nobody will know what we're talking about at this point, so we'll be there.
Yeah. But episode 229, we are talking about the journey versus the stay, or the journey versus the destination today. And I'll run into it. I mean, you'll take over in a second. But basically, this is the trip about where you're going to, or about getting to where you're going to. And I think you really can break down different types of trips by this. I think this is a very good separation of it. And I really want to get into how you prepare, what you take for each of these types of trips. And we're going to get into a little bit of like ultralight stuff, how how one involves more comfort at camp and one more comfort while traveling, things like that. And I think it really will help bring to light a lot of people of what they're really into and how they can plan better trips for themselves once they realize what is the goal for them when they're doing these type of trips, and how it affects their overall enjoyment of the experience.
And honestly, good topic because the next couple of weeks we're both on vacation, and hopefully we're both taking some adventures there. And I think we're going to have a little bit of trip versus destination. Just a shout out to Andrew Kavganga. I hope I said that right. If not, I apologize if I butchered your name there. Anyway, we got them and Nomadic Hacker joining us in the comments for this show. And yeah, I mean, it's what's Hacker saying here? For me, it's about the adventures, so it depends on if the trip or the destination has more adventure. And this is kind of the whole thing. And we were talking about this before the episode, saying most of us are going to fall somewhere in the middle. Like it's never going to be solely about the destination, it's never going to be solely about the journey. But there are different instances where one may outshine the other, you know what I mean? Or more specifically, what I was thinking about was when you just go out and there is no real destination. And I know you're a fan of this as well, Ben. You just grab some stuff and you go. And that's kind of what my next 2 weeks look like. It's very loosely thrown together.
But some people need that. Like, there is no wrong answer, by the way. Like, don't think that we're going to come here and tell you you have to do this or you have to do that. First off, that is not the right place. We are not the place for that. But like, I sometimes I do a bit of a monologue when travel, trying to think about things, and I started thinking about a good friend of mine, and my friend has some mobile limitations, and by that I mean they can't do a lot of walking and traveling, but they still have an interest in doing camping. So for them, it's very much about the destination, and because it's about getting to a location and really enjoying that location, they tended to be prone to carrying, say, more comfortable chairs, a comfortable bed, bigger tent, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You can go to, say, Keji or any national park, stay at the park, drive up there, and then spend a full week or a weekend or whatever you choose and have an absolute awesome time. And it means that you're not spending tons of time traveling. And that's a very enjoyable experience. But what I've kind of was thinking about is this is when we start to bring the luxury items. This is when we can afford to take everything and the kitchen sink. And I mean, that does make it a different trip. Nothing wrong with it. It's really good. And some days I enjoy that. Recently I did a family trip where it was much more about the destination, getting to a camp and just enjoying the campsite. Um,
And likewise, the last big adventure that Mel and I were on, we went to a camp out in the woods. You know what I mean? We could basically drive to this, and I don't know if Steve's with us here or not tonight, but he's been to this location, and it's literally drive up, providing you have a truck. But I mean, it was still an amazing adventure. There was snow on the ground when we went. There's a wood stove in there. It was amazing. But we did bring a lot of niceties, you know what I mean? But we knew we could drive right to the door. So we brought the big ass camp chairs. We brought like our own cooking, like big pans and stuff like that, because we knew we could use them.
yeah,
And that just added to the overall adventure. And in the comments here, Melissa's doing this and talking to Nomadic Hacker there. It very much is about the adventure for most of us. It may be the adventure's the trip, it may be the adventure's the destination, or maybe it's a combination of the two, but it's always something.
yeah. Now, my last trip to counter that was actually 2 days spent on motorcycle traveling through backwoods. For that trip, it wasn't about the destination where we got to. We found a place to crash for the night. We had a meal. Then we got up and we had a good breakfast. And then it was all about getting as far as we could on the bike the next day. Now, I learned a lot about myself in it. And that's where I think sometimes, for me, I learn more about myself on the journey trips than the destination trips. But what I find on the flip side, to sort of give credence or strength to why we would want to do the destination trips, I find that I recover better. I manage to relax more on those destination trips. Those are the trips where it isn't about the stress of getting somewhere and discovering who you are, but letting go of all the stress and enjoying that location and just being in the moment. Um,
And you said something that kind of resonates. Traveling individually, by myself or by yourself, I find physically I may get more exhausted when I return, but mentally I seem to be more reset, much because it is that quiet time to kind of be alone with your own thoughts. As terrifying as that could be, depending on the person, we've talked about this. You do get to have that internal monologue, and you can report out a lot about yourself and a lot about what's going on in your life during that time. Generally, on destination trips, or at least in my case, it always seems like when it's about the destination or we're going to a specific place or the destination is the focal point. It's always with other people, which is still an adventure. And I tend to come back a lot more physically refreshed, not necessarily as mentally refreshed.
yeah, I have to generally agree with you. For if I have things I'm mulling over in my head, nothing beats a good 20, 30 kilometer hour or day trek carrying a load, because I think when you're walking carrying a load, your brain just kind of like your body shuts into a drive motion, and your brain just goes wherever it needs to or wherever it wants to, and you definitely get a new self discovery. And yeah, it is a bit terrifying for some of us. Some of us have very terrifying insides. We do not want to share all that with everyone.
But I mean, you also learn that about yourself. Like there are people out there, as hard as we may find it to believe, that have literally never been alone for any real amount of time. And I mean real amount of time here, folks. I don't mean sitting at home playing video games, watching TV, because then, yes, you may be individually alone in that room, but you still have a lot of external stimuli that kind of, helps you not really have to focus on your internal monologue. There's a lot of people out there that literally just haven't been left alone in the quiet of their own thoughts. And if you've never actually experienced that, folks, it's something else. And I don't mean just an hour little meditation session in your Zen zone. That's fine too, don't get me wrong. But I mean, go for a good solid day with no technology, not even necessarily in the woods. Go to a beach, go to a walking trail, go into the woods, whatever floats your boat, and just be alone with your own thoughts. It's an experience if you've never experienced it. And once you experience it, a lot of us strive to try and get back to that to some point. You know what I mean? We've talked in past episodes about, sometimes you just need to reset.
Yeah.
That's the reset. When you can literally just be left alone to think to yourself. You know what I mean? You can solve a lot of things internally you didn't even know were things, and you will dig up new things you didn't know were things too. Like this is kind of that what's the word I'm looking for here? Circular kind of thought pattern, but there's a specific word for it.
It'll come to you. Just
eventually, and I'll just chime in later.
Go for a 2-day hike. It'll come to you. It's so well out of
literally.
The funny thing is, I think I've done that my whole life, and it's only in the last few years where I really kind of understood the importance of it and relationship of it, where I did it before. I guess it was instinctive that I needed to get away and figure things out, but now I can more put words to it, and I can think about it and understand why I'm doing it. And so in the periods of my most stress, that was my big thing. It was about the journey. It was about head down, making miles, and just losing myself physically, mentally, emotionally, and getting out there. And I think that, this type of activity, I think we've called it in the past a sport even, although, neither of us would consider ourselves sporty. It's definitely the activity of our choice is to get out and enjoy the outdoors and everything that came with it. So the starting of fires, the cooking of food, the identification of trees and different vegetation, and how to build different shelters, and all this stuff just added to it. But in the end, it's about the experience. And I think this is the point of today's episode, more so than everything, is how to define the experience you're hoping to have and how to make it the best experience.
And I guess getting back more to the root of our conversation here, one of the things we wanted to talk about is depending on how your adventure is leaning. I mean, generally when we go out, we have a gist of what we want the adventure to be, either destination or journey based. You kind of got to change a little bit your mentality going into each one of those. As we already mentioned, if you're destination based one, perhaps you're going to bring more to the destination because either the journey isn't that far, or it's an easier walk, or it's a drive up location. Generally, and I do say generally, you have the freedom to bring more with you. And on the flip side of that, when it's journey based, depending on how you're getting around, you may want to lighten the load, so to speak, quite literally, you know what I mean? And this is something that you're far more better at than I am, Ben. We've joked about this in the past. My white load is 50, 60 pounds.
Yeah, well, and sometimes mine is too. Brute force and ignorance has gotten us far in life. But no, you want to look at the people who are really into the journey. Oftentimes it is the thru hikers, the ultralight hikers. And these guys, for very good reason, weigh out the grams. The nickname for a lot of these people are the gram weenies, and they're covering distance. And they've worked out that every pound in your pack takes so much more effort to move. And if you can get those pounds out, you can travel the trail faster, easier. You can climb the hill easier. If you have a large, bulky pack on your back, climbing a hill is so much more difficult. Covering that distance. So these are guys who, give up a few pounds to gain a few extra kilometers every day.
And this is the thing. This is what a lot of people miss on these ultralights or the trekkers or the travelers or the grammars, whatever you want to call them. And I was originally one of these people. Oh, it's only 2 pounds. You know what I mean? For 2 pounds, I'll take it. But here's the thing. If that's a 14-day hike, 2 pounds over, let's say you're traveling 12, 14 hours a day. I mean, that's a long day, but let's say you're doing 12, 14 hours a day. You're doing the Appalachians, something like that. It's pretty good traveling. You want to make distance. Carry 2 pounds for 14 hours and then not carry 2 pounds for 14 hours. See which one is actually more difficult. Like, yeah, all this stuff adds up. If you're going to be doing a seriously long trek, once again, getting back to this 14-day thing or whatever the case may be, grams do add up. You know what I mean? And this is something I was guilty of. I am still the first one to say, oh, it's only a couple of pounds, I'll just take it. But I'm also the first one to be like, I'm not walking the Appalachian Trail. You know what I mean? Although I do want to. I'm usually the first one that's like, yeah, I'm kind of a short distance sprinter, not a long distance marathoner.
So what is the definition of work, though? I think weight times distance?
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, you're pulling back from my elementary school science days, but yeah, it's like work over force over something like that.
So you move 10 pounds, 100 meters, that's that much work. If you want to get horsepower, I think you include time in it, how long it takes you to do that amount of work. So if you think about it, if you're carrying distance, any amount of weight, any amount of distance, that's work. You yourself, moving yourself is work. Add weight to it, it increases the work. So,
and Nomad here had a good analogy, which takes to another sport here, hunting. He said, I'm playing hunting, carrying a 6-pound shotgun gets real heavy. And I'm the first one to be, I bought a different rifle for deer hunting simply because the one I had was heavy for walking around the woods. I went from, a longer, older British firearm to something that's a little more sleeker and slimmer. And it saved me all of maybe 2 pounds overall. But I mean, that 2 pounds over the course of an entire day hunting made a massive difference. Literally. Now, times that by how many ever days, plus I'm hunting in the fall when the days are shorter. So if it was during the summer, good weather, generally when we go out to our hiking and stuff, it's going to be longer days, longer times. That same 2 pounds, I mean,
adds up.
Yeah, I mean, much to his credit, that's kind of what shone the light for me. I was like, yeah, I'm buying a new firearm specifically to save a few pounds. And I'm the first guy to say, it's just a couple pounds.
Yeah. But it makes a huge difference, and I think that's what we have to keep in mind here, right? Like when you are doing the distances, when you are traveling, you're going to be thinking about these things. And here's the thing: if it's about the journey, if you're trying to travel long distance, the pinnacle of that to me is your through hiker doing, say, the PCT or the Appalachian Trail, something like that. These two trails that, given half the chance, I would do in a minute. Well, actually, it would take me about 5 months, but I would do it. I would start it tomorrow if somebody said, listen, don't worry about wet work, don't worry about anything else. You can do that trip. I would go and start doing it.
Gone in a heartbeat.
Right? Gone in a heartbeat. Here's the flip side of that, though. You aren't doing this to set up a camp for a long time. So a small, lightweight tent makes a lot of sense. You're only setting it up. It keeps you covered at night. You want to get your breakfast quickly, so a small, lightweight stove that you can set up quickly and fold down quickly. That makes a lot of sense because it's about getting the kilometers done. So everything that takes more effort to set up and more effort to take down and more effort to carry becomes wasted effort. Because your effort is to cover those distances and see those views. And what you're going to sacrifice time for is moments. And in those cases, and I think this is a good analogy for life, it's not the number of breaths, but the moment of moments that took a breath away. So if you're walking through the mountains and you see you're going to stop for those beautiful views. You're going to stop for those really interesting people. You're going to stop for the things that are important. And the things that aren't important, you're just going to keep going. And that's the goal of those type of events. So, there it is, like you look at what do you need, what do you absolutely need, and what anything else is taking away from those moments. And that's the last thing you want.
And that's the thing. And I guess getting back to the topic, or looping back to the same topic, previous genre, previous iteration. You can overload yourself sometimes on the destination-based stuff when you take all the niceties. It distracts you from what's going on around you, or it can potentially distract you from what's going on around you. And what I'm thinking of, and I'm guilty of this, like I bring a little AM radio, or sorry, not AM, way dating myself there. I bring a little FM radio when Mel and I go out a lot of times, just so we have a little background music. But depending on what you've got going on, sometimes that music can take away from the sound going around you. You know what I mean? It's something else to be like just chilling at night, watching a fire, listening to it crackling, and you can hear like the loon off in the distance or that owl hooting in the woods. If you got like a radio blasting, you may have missed all of that stuff. On the flip side of it, if you're at the waterfall like us, sometimes that that droning sound, until you get used to it, it can almost feel like it's making you go insane. And then the little bit of reprieve you would get from listening to a radio station might actually break that and make it more enjoyable. So it's all things to kind of wait out when you're going. You know what I mean?
For sure. So if we've identified the ultimate sort of journey person as being, say, your thru hiker, if I was to identify the ultimate destination person, I would go with, and I want to hear what your belief is, because I think the thru hiker is pretty universal, so that's kind of it. I would have to say would be your RV camper.
Yes and no, honestly, on this one. They are very destination based because they're kind of traveling with their camping gear. But for them, it can also be about the adventure of just traveling and seeing the country. It's a different way. We happen to be woodsy people. We go in the woods. They're in the cement jungle, you know what I mean? They're hitting the highways and sometimes back roads. Arguably, sometimes they get to see stuff that's just as awesome because they're just traveling. They're like, oh, where does that go? I don't know. Well, you know what? We can go down the road, and if it gets dark, who cares? We can sleep here. You know what I mean? They have a little bit more freedom to have less boundaries in some aspects and a lot more boundaries in other aspects, I guess. I don't know. It's a tough one.
I think the big thing for me with those, and this is the reason I chose that as an example, and I definitely think there's more debate on this side, is that they do have literally everything and the kitchen sink. They can go with a full washing machine, a dishwasher, all their dishes, fancy camping equipment. And you get in, and there's a bit of effort to setting those up. And when they're set up, they can be there for a long time. I guess more so, can carry on to that. Your park model trailers that aren't even really meant to be moved after they meet the destination. And it tends to be the more social of the two. Let's be honest about it.
Yeah, there's something about those, like, I call them trailer park trailers, because honestly, to me, it's like all the joys of a trailer park without the benefits of a trailer park. Like, I'm not a big camper destinationer. I understand if that's your thing and you like it, by all means.
Yeah.
It's just not something I'm super good with. Now, Nomad says something here in the comments that I kind of lean on his side. He said, day trippers are definitely for the destination. And I kind of see his point on that too, but once again, arguably, a lot of day trippers, they go out on trails and stuff they haven't seen before. They are reaching a destination. Maybe it's a waterfall, maybe it's a geocache. Geocachers are big day trippers in my mind. You know what I mean? They find these geocaches throughout. Generally, they are in locations that have some sort of scenic views. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, wife just texted me. Yeah, so I understand his thoughts. I get it. They are definitely about the destination because they have that planned end goal, and they have to be back by the end of the day, generally. But at the same time, even on those planned end goals, you get to see a lot of neat stuff. The waterfalls you and I went to, Ben, that was a day trip that went road for me originally. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, but and that's it, right? Like these people can fit into that group, but like you said, with minor deviations, it's about the journey. Um, and that's it breaks down to do you get up and do you drive straight to your destination? Do you deviate from nothing on the way, or do you stop partway through and see the sights, meet the people, do the things that are on the way? And is getting to the destination the least important thing or the most important thing? And if getting to the falls was the absolute most important thing for us, it would have been the destination. But for us, let's take that particular trip. That's an interesting one. Um, we both decided we were going to do a motorcycle trip. So it was about packing the motorcycles, making sure we take the gear on that. It was about meeting at a certain location. It was about driving down a very rickety and tricky and dangerous
Yeah, there was some adventures on that one. If you guys know what we're talking about, go back and watch. We've talked about it numerous times.
Yeah. But and then once we got there, unloading the gear, putting the bikes into a safe position, hiding the keys, taking our packs, repacking them on us, and then beelining it through the woods. And I remember we found some kind of interesting little valleys and some interesting trees, and we found stuff on that way, and it was about the trip. And
And it definitely was because that's a route I hadn't picked into this place either. We agreed on this kind of route to go in. We had Google Maps out. We talked about it over the internet. And we're like, okay, we're going to drive up here. We should be able to park here. And if we take a bearing from this point and go in this direction, we should hit where we need to be. And that's our plan.
Yeah. Right. So, and that was, but a big part of it was the waterfall. So that was one that's on the spectrum. And I think a lot of our trips are. And I think most people's, you'll find that it's not 100%, we just did everything. I guess the other way would be like an all-inclusive trip. That might be the one. You hire an all-inclusive trip. So you get on a plane, you fly straight there, you stay in the resort, and you never leave the resort, and then you fly straight back. It's about the destination. More so.
And yeah, I guess that's the true destinationers. They're definitely like the, and I'm not picking on anyone specifically here, folks, but like we call them snowbirds in Canada. You know what I mean? Snow comes, they take off to nicer weather. Or we get like resort hours, much like Ben was talking about, usually around the same time. That February, February, March kind of era where we have March break and stuff. People just load up, head to resorts, and literally never leave the poolside.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think both of them are important, though, and that's sort of it. So, let's get back, and then, we'll kind of get to a point where we can wrap this up decently. So, when you are planning a trip, you kind of have to look at the trip and see, what am I planning on doing, and how do I set it up? And every trip we do this. We don't not consciously call it this, but it is an aspect in our trip planning. So, let's take a hypothetical trip to say me and you are going to go to Keji this year. Right? We're going to choose, how do we get to Keji? Once we go to Keji, what are we going to do in there? Are we canoeing to sites? Are we staying in one site for the whole trip, or are we moving to multiple sites?
I was going to say, first question to me is, which site are we trying to, how far do we want to go?
Yeah. Right? My favorite Keji trips have always been, do a loop, where I go to one site and I move to another site and another site and come out somewhere totally different than where I went in, and then I go home. And so very much a combination of the things. And sometimes, though, this is where you kind of merge the two really well. You do that journey and then stay a couple nights at one or two sites, because then you can really enjoy the site. Because if you show up at a site late at night and then take off in the morning, you never really enjoy the site. You just stayed at the site.
Yeah. And that's Nomad, once again, from the comments. As someone who lives in an RV, we're definitely shooting the destination, but we've had plenty of adventures on the journey, not all vehicle problems. And he's had plenty of RV adventures just trying to find a place to park at night.
Yeah.
And that's much like the trekking out, because it is possible in this situation. You go Gedgy, you blow in on a site, somebody's already there.
Yeah. Well, some of the trips I really plan on doing, I purchased a pass for the national parks in Oregon and Washington. And I'm really excited to get down and really explore that area. It's beautiful down there. And it's not that expensive. If you want, you can actually stay after you get the pass, more or less for free. But it's first come, first serve. You show up. If there's no one in some of these sites, you can set up. And if there is, you can't. And they can only stay so long before they're expected to move along.
Yeah. And I mean, that's still, once again, getting back to our original point, depending on how far we're going to be going into this theoretical Keji trip, it's also going to dictate how long we're going, and how long we're going is going to dictate the kind of trip that we're planning on. Like, if we're planning to do some serious kilometers, as we alluded to at the start of this, we're going to pack lighter. Probably going to break out lighter sleeping bags. If we're going to do hammocks, it'll probably be, no underquilt. Try and plan it for a time when I don't need the underquilt. Like, I would be trying to actually shave off a little bit of weight on this one, for instance.
Yeah. You might give up some of the comforts, we have talked about it. Take the hammock, for instance. The underquilt is much more comfortable, but it's big and bulky and weighs a bit. You can do air mattresses, but they're less bulky, maybe a little less weight, but they're a little bit more, say, expensive potentially. And then the cheapest method I've found so far is a $5 windshield reflector from a car, and that costs, like I said, $5 and weighs almost nothing and takes up very little space. Can be strapped to the outside of your pack very easily, and it's very easy to move. But honestly, it's not necessarily the most comfortable option you're going to go with. It's not uncomfortable. It keeps you warm. It's a little crinkly, but that's something you could do. The combat.
When you're trying to save weight, sometimes you may sacrifice a little bit of comfort, but that's kind of the old justice scales or whatever you want to call it. You got to weigh that out. How much comfort are you willing to sacrifice for the little bit of weight that you're going to gain? And I think there is a real talent in balancing that out. And it's one I'm not so great at personally, but I do understand it's a thing. And people that can do that very effectively, that's a skill set all in all. Once again, you're much better at that than I am.
You keep saying that. Yet I still sometimes bring a lot more comfort items than I absolutely need.
And I think we're all guilty of that, to be honest with you. But when it comes down to crunch time, I think you got a pretty good handle on stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm planning on taking a pack home with me when I go to Nova Scotia in the upcoming weeks, and that's one of the things I went through. Like, do I need this? Do I need that? Can I give up this? Can I give up that? And so I think I've come to a pack that I'm more or less happy with, and I think I've got it down to less than 30 pounds total. And I'm happy with that. I'm very content with a sub 30 pound pack. That being said, I could definitely go lighter, but I do want some of these comfort items. And when I get to the other destination and I meet with, say, my buddy Chris, who I hope to camp with, one of the things will be, can we divide some of the redundant gear between us? So do we both need to bring a stove? Do we both need to bring a saw? Do we both need to bring an axe? Do we need an axe? Do we need a saw? Once we look at the trip, are these required items? Me and you both like to take some of these items, but the reality is, usually you can find enough dead wood. You don't really need a big saw to process it. Like, you can do without some of this stuff.
So Mel's just chiming in here. She says she's just coming back. She was wandering away, and she says, I feel like it's become more about the destination for us, not the mountain climbing, pole trekking, precaution people these days. Maybe because we have more limited time now, so we would rather enjoy where we're going than spending the time getting there, but exploring around is always a part of the plan. Although it depends on what kind of journey we're taking, because we've definitely embraced the ATV traveling into places more in the last few years, and we enjoy them. And she may be a little bit right. We do plan more on the destination, but I think we just more. I would argue instead of we're focusing more on the destination, we have just become accustomed to including a destination as we, as time is a little bit limited, and I think this is going to resonate with a lot of people potentially in our age group. As your time gets less and your age gets more, you don't always have the time or the ability to be able to travel as far and as long as you want to. However, we always find a way. So yes, we have a couple of destinations in mind over the next couple of weeks, but I think we're going to find that the journey along these is going to be part of the adventure, much like we said. We are planning to go out and do some dome camping, some PEI camping. We're traveling around in the next 2 weeks during the vacation and trying to get in some adventures. I think just the traveling to these locations alone is going to be a lot of the adventures there, Mel. I don't know. I still stick with. I think it's kind of a combination of both, and always will be. It is what you make it. The adventure is however you want it to be. Honestly, as long as you gently nudge it in a preferable direction. You know what I mean? You can be cranky about traveling where you want to go, or you can just embrace it and have fun with it and make it about the trip there as well.
Yeah, I truly believe most of us are, like you said in the beginning, somewhere in the middle. It's a bit about both, and it has to be.
Just reading a few of the comments here. So Red Bear, I pack my daily carry pack, very Spartan. But if I'm going for a trip, I always pack to be more comfort and redundancy. And once again, I think we're all a little guilty of that, Red Bear. 100%.
Oh, and for food, I am huge on food. I take way more food than I eat.
I do now since I've met up with you. I used to be the guy carrying like the gruel, and now I still tell people about that story when I'm like eating my porridge with nuts in it, and I look over and you got bacon and scrambled eggs, and I just look down and I go, "What am I doing?
I'm doing it wrong."
What is this nonsense?"
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in starving myself. I know I look it too, uh, but no, you to get out there and really enjoy it, you really have to make the whole thing, and I think that's the for me. I try to find that balance, and that's it, right? Look at my trip overall. Where am I going to get the most pleasure from it, and then concentrate on making sure that that happens. Um, when I'm canoeing, for instance, if I know I have a lot of portages, I will light my load. If I know I can get there completely on canoe and completely back, I do not worry about weight as much, and all of a sudden, these extra things just find their way in my boat.
Like a turkey and deep fryer?
It has been known to happen. Occasionally, I have done such things.
Oh, I was really struggling with how I was going to get that into this episode, too. And I think your priority could change as you get out there, too. I mean, going back to the story that we joke about from time to time when Mel and I went out on our anniversary looking for a lake, and there was no lake to be found, or at least we didn't see it. We changed our priority. It became more about the adventure of the traveling than the destination, because the destination turned into not exist. And I think as long as you have the availability to be flexible like that, you're never going to be without a good time when you go out. If you focus too much on the travel or too much on the destination, it kind of takes away from the overall experience, I think. And I think that's kind of what we've been saying this entire time.
Yeah, for sure. What's the newest note?
Oh, just let's see. Melissa, we definitely pick a place we want to check out and get there, but we always enjoy being the time together and the journey in and out. Just less effort these days, and that's part of the trip. You know what I mean? Is the company. So when Mel and I go, it's we're enjoying each other's company. We're having some laughs. You know what I mean? It's about that. And then she said, Mel packs the good food. You can have his oats. Leave my oats alone. And what? So to fill people in on the joke here, I've gotten big on overnight oats.
Yeah.
One because I'm traveling a lot now with my new job, and I don't have the time to pack proper lunches. Overnight oats has kind of become a staple with my diet. And if anybody's wondering, I'm losing weight like crazy, and they're healthy for you. But I'm actually sick of them. I'm not gonna lie. Then Nomad says, I went on a trip with a guy who carried in 3 gallons of water. Nomad took his filter. I definitely enjoyed the journey more. And that's the thing. Like, a gallon of water is 10 pounds. That's an extra 30 pounds. And then Melissa is, how dedicated am I to ensuring that I have Jiffy Pop in my bag? It's a necessity item. And there is a running gag between Melissa and I. There's always at least one Jiffy Pop in the house. One, it's great for camping. Two, it's great when the power goes out.
It's one of those things. Outside of this conversation, there are comfort items that I think we all tend to take. It might be a pack of cards. It might be a special lantern. It could be, like you mentioned, somebody taking their FM radio or their AM radio, whatever floats your boat. Or it could be a special piece of food. And Jiffy Pop is also something that I've often enjoyed on trips because it's a very nice, comfortable thing to have. And it's fun. It's exciting. It's fun to watch that bag fill up. It's at the pot, like the aluminum foil dome.
I kid you not, Ben, Jiffy Pop is one of the most utilitarian things you will ever put in your bag. One, you can make the Jiffy Pop neat. We have done this. And then I've turned the Jiffy Pop container into not only a frying pan, but a teapot. And then use the oil on the outside of it to cook a steak. Like, man, you can do a lot with a thing of Jiffy Pop.
Oh, so it's a necessity. It's just a survival.
It almost is a necessity. Like, I am still surprised at what you can do with a thing of Jiffy Pop when you put your mind to it. Like, there's a nice big wire in there, which we've used as a pot holder and for fixing tent poles once upon a time. Kind of diving down a rabbit hole here, so I'll cut it short. If you haven't taken Jiffy Pop with you camping, start. It is almost as good as like a online. I kid you not.
Yeah, you definitely can find that in various places. I think if you go to any campground, there's always a Jiffy. Like if they have a store, there's at least one thing of Jiffy Pop on the shelf. Like
it's a staple.
I see it and I'm like, oh, they still sell that because I forget about it until I'm camping, right? Do you know it says not to be used on open fire?
What's that?
Do you know it says right on the package not to be used over open fire?
Yeah, I know. That's why we pull the coals inside. That's not open fire. That's coal. And there's a difference.
Yeah. So, anyways, I mean, it's a bit of a different topic for us in general, but I thought it would be an interesting conversation. I think we've really captured the essence of it, though.
Actually, I think it was one of our better chats. We had a lot of input from the comments, which I appreciate. Once again, shout out to Melissa, Red Bear, Nomadic Hacker. I think we had 42 and 6, I believe was his handle there. 46 and 2, sorry. I believe he's working around in the comments. We had Danny join us. We had Andrew join us. It was a good night. We had a lot of input.
Right. So, it is, though. Like, take your time, though, when you make a trip and think about it. And that's going to affect a bit about how you travel and what you do and how you look at things. And I think, you'll start to really enjoy each aspect of it and find that balance. But, there's nothing wrong with either one. Just enjoying the paddle to an island or staying on the island and enjoying the beach and the sunset, both, hold great joy and pleasure for me.
No, 100%. I couldn't agree more, honestly. I think with most of us in bushcraft, sorry, didn't mean for that loud noise right beside the mic. I think for most of us in bushcrafting, it's a blend. Some days it's going to be more about the journey. Some days it's going to be more about the destination, but never will be exclusive of one or the other. Some people, they can make that divide. For me, it's always kind of flip-flopping. Sometimes I'm having a really good journey with the destination slowly in my mind, only to get to the destination and realize I have way more fun on the journey. And sometimes it's flip-flopped. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean, yeah. This comes back a little bit to a conversation how to make the best of a moment.
Yeah, and that's just roll with it. Like Red Bear's over here saying that his comfort item's a coffee press. It's something I actually want to get and try. You know what I mean?
For someone who doesn't really enjoy coffee, it always makes me jealous when I see people doing it.
And this is the thing. I'm more of a tea drinker, but I always am envious of the coffee press. And Mel's last words were, either way, just make sure to enjoy the people you're with, even if it's just yourself.
Yeah.
I can't argue that. That's actually words of wisdom from my wife right there for you folks. Stanley makes a great French press. Okay, I'll have to check that out. I have been on Amazon and checked out a few, like, just, $14 presses, and I think that may be where I start. And I know the coffee enthusiasts are rolling their eyes at me right now, but you know what? I don't drink a lot of coffee. I just want to be able to whip out the coffee press around other people and be like, yeah, I'm going to make my fresh coffee, because I want to be that guy for once.
Well, I mean, I think Mark Young, he had some awesome videos on this stuff, but
oh man,
you want to look up different coffee things. There's a ton of guys out there who show you how they cook their coffee and stuff. I mean, I could probably join the how you cook your steak one and compete quite well, but how you make your coffee, I've never done. I've never made a coffee, so I can't challenge anyone on that.
And that's what I mean. I am not a massive coffee drinker. I drink it here and there, but I'm way more team tea, as Mel says there.
But nothing beats, absolutely nothing beats, sitting by yourself, watching the sunrise, and enjoying a nice hot beverage on a cold morning.
Oh, amazing. I actually love this when we're out hunting. I go out hunting with Jeff, which is Melissa's father there, my father-in-law. And those cold mornings where there's still a little bit of frost and the sun's just starting to come up and it's melting that frost off, I will literally crack open a cup of tea or coffee or whatever the case may be, and the firearm just goes down, and I'm like, no, I'm just enjoying the moment. This is awesome. And something could walk out and be like, today's your lucky day, just have at her, and I'm just going to enjoy this.
Yeah, it is one of my absolute favorite things is that first thing in the morning when nobody else is really awake. My last trip, I was fortunate my camping partner didn't even... I woke up and I looked out the hammock and I could see his tent over there and there's no movement, and I got up and I took the tent down. I went down to the river and I got some food and I cooked up my breakfast, and it was just an awesome time just by myself enjoying the outdoors. And watching this... I watched the sun come up over the mountains behind me and cast a shadow on the mountains across the lake. It was
that'd be so cool. I like my Zen zone is watching that morning dew or the morning frost or whatever the case may be slowly burn off. And I literally mean burn off. It'll start to steam. There's actually a video, I might have put it up on our Facebook page, I can't remember, but it literally just starts steaming and you're just sitting there and it looks so majestic and magical. It's a great thing.
Yeah, no, 100%. That morning mist coming off a lake or down a river, it's a magical time.
It's not the moments you... What did you say? It was a great thing. It's not the
life
moments
is not about the number of breaths you take, but the number of moments that take your breath away.
That's the one. That's what this stuff is. And as cheesy as it sounds, it is just a happy place. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
I mean, all the things we do, all the foolish, crazy stuff we have done in the woods, the times that we probably came close to killing ourselves, and we both know those numbers are much higher than either of us will ever admit to.
Yeah.
Those moments, those quiet moments, when the sun is rising or the sun is setting or the loon is calling, those made every one of those worth their while.
Absolutely, 100%. Enjoy the adventure, folks. That's the bottom line. Take it from a couple old fogies, or getting old fogies, I guess, now that have been in the woods a long time. Enjoy the adventure. Enjoy all of it. You're out there anyway.
Yeah. I actually heard a hunter say something one time. It was kind of a conversation I had with him. And interestingly enough, he just accepted my friend request this week, or today, I think. Is I was sitting down with a bunch of hunters, and they were talking about all the gear and money they spent on duck decoys and different shotguns, on their boats, on all the stuff they did. Like they had these silhouettes, and the feed, and I'm like, man, you can go down to Sobeys and buy a goose for like 12, $15. Like I said, how much game do you have to buy to catch every year to make it worth your while?
Oh, you never get your money back. Jeff and I figured this out. We will never get the money back we put into hunting, but it's about the experience. Both of us just enjoy it. We have what we call the slanty shanty that we built out in the backwoods, which is just our blind. And I mean, there's days when we're out there shivering,
Yeah.
but at the end of the year, it's all worth it. It's all a fun experience. And I get that. Okay, I'm not a duck hunter in any way, shape, or form. Somebody once told me something, and this is my joke for the night. Do you know how you cook a duck? You get a cedar plank, you put the duck on the cedar plank, and you put it in the smoker for, a long ass time. Then you take it out, throw the duck away, and eat the board. And that's how I feel about duck hunting. There's people that'll argue that with me. I just don't like duck.
No. But these group of hunters looked at me, and to the man, they all said one. Right? I just have to get one duck a year to make it all worthwhile to them. So,
it's about the experience.
So, but I realize I'm the same thing, I've spent hundreds of dollars on tents, sleeping bags, headlights, stoves, knives, axes, saws, sleeping bag liners, you name it. If it's camping related and I can get it, I'll spend hours looking at different watches that might help me, or GPS units and things like that. And I gain way more enjoyment out of looking this stuff up and researching and figuring out which one I really, really want, and debating the merits of one over the other. That's a part of it, and getting it, and then when it does the one thing I wanted that one time, it's worth every moment, every hour of looking at it. And I watch my daughters get frustrated. Why do you waste so much time researching? Just buy it for you. But it's no, don't take away my fun, right? So
my wife might have told me that once or twice. Stop asking questions. Stop looking. Just either buy it or don't. I'm like,
right?
But like Hacker says here, Andrew first. Building memories is the best. Red Bear takes me back to camping with my grandparents and parents. The smell of Coleman stove and fresh coffee is very therapeutic. Takes him back to camping with his grandparents and parents, which I'm sure you can relate to there, Ben.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Nomadic. And Nomad here, if you are going for the destination and something happens on the journey, don't miss out on that because you were too focused on the destination. And that's the thing. Enjoy the adventure, folks. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. Me and Red Bear may argue we know some of the best outdoors people in the world. We may have.
Yeah, we've talked about this off camera. We don't like to bring too much of our personal lives into this, minus our adventures, which is the point of the podcast. But off camera, we've talked about some of the family relations and stuff in there. And you know what? I argue you're probably right.
So, but destination, journey, in the end, it's all about the moments, and the moments that really bring it to us. And, thinking about it will help you make the best of your trip. Right?
Couldn't agree more.
And I for one can't wait for my next trip. And if anyone's wondering when my next trip is, it's always in planning until I do it, and then I'm planning the next trip. And I plan the next trip on the way home from the last trip.
So great segue, seeing we're wrapping up this anyway, folks. Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures, I think we've agreed we're going to go on a 2-week hiatus starting after this episode, simply because we both have vacations coming up at the exact same time. We're both doing 2 weeks, and we're both hoping to get out on a crap ton of adventures. Melissa and I, we have a couple different camping venues planned out. We're going to do some ATVing. We're going to do some woods adventures. We're going to do some island adventures. So look for snippets of videos coming out, folks. But the podcast itself, definitely taking a 2-week hiatus. I mean, we've been at this for over 4 years, never missed an episode. It's just, I guess we're long overdue for it. And frankly, if this all plays out well, hopefully I can figure out a way to get up and meet you while you're here then, and we can maybe do some pictures or something, right?
So fingers crossed. That would be great. It would be great to meet up with you for at least a few minutes. Or
yeah, even if it's just crossing, you know what I mean? I know I'm heading in that direction. An extra hour and a half is not going to make that big a difference.
Yeah. And, if we can make it more a night or something, that would be great too. But we'll figure it out. We'll plan it, we'll play it by ear. Or as a new friend I made recently said, we'll play it by beer.
Play it by beer. I love it. And yeah, the only thing I got to do is meet up with Mel, and we got to have a little chat and work out the finer details, because we literally have almost every day of our vacation plan doing something. It's just trying to make the new plans mesh with what we already have planned. So hopefully, like I said, expect tons of videos. I'm going to try and do short snippets of some of the places we're going, some of the places, things we're doing, without giving away too much of where we're at. So like, the freaky people out there don't start dropping in on us. But I'm going to take the drone out. Hopefully, I can get that up a little bit and do some of the sightseeing in some of these places that are going that I wanted to. However, right now it's saying potentially rain, which sucks. But at the same time, you know what? As long as it's not raining too bad, I'm willing to risk it. And honestly, if it's raining bad, I'm still going out. I'm just going to get wet. And I'm okay with that as well, because the temperatures aren't supposed to be too bad.
Wow.
And I know you have adventures there too, Ben. Yeah, you just looked at the weather, didn't you, bud?
I did.
I seen the whole face just go, oh.
40%, 40, 60, 40, 40, 50, 60, 40, 60.
Like I said, I don't care. I don't care in the slightest. I've been looking forward to this vacation for months now, because I've just been run ragged with job transfers and doing multiple jobs and stuff like that. I don't care. There could be like literally meteor showers raining down on me. I'm getting out there and doing something.
Very good.
Yeah, can't be anything compared to historic flooding last weekend. For anybody that doesn't know, there was literally basically a natural disaster here in Nova Scotia, where certain parts had 200 to 300 mils of rain dumped down on us in 4 or 5 hours. Like, there was loss of life. There was a lot of stuff going on here. It was nasty last weekend. So it can't be that bad.
No, it can't be. I hope not, anyways, because I'm going to be there for it.
Yeah, bring the good weather with you, Ben. Bring some of that out west weather, man.
I'm trying. Because you know what? They lied to me. They said, oh, go out west. Go to the wet coast, they said. Friggin' desert.
I was going to say, you've had nicer weather than we've ever had here.
I don't know that it can rain in the west coast. We had 1 day of rain in the last 2 months that I can remember, and it was pathetic enough that I kind of regretted not driving on my motorcycle. I was like, I won't drive, it's supposed to rain. I was like, oh, damn it.
I can't remember where we've had more. Well, you know what? The last 3 days hasn't rained. That's the first 3 days in ages I don't remember it raining. So, yeah, I don't care. Like I said, I truly don't care. I'm going out. If I get wet, I get wet. It's supposed to be warm. I won't die, and I'm not made of sugar. So I'm giving her. And I know my phone is basically waterproof, so we're still going to be getting videos. So, folks, look forward to the snippets. And I guess we'll see you in 3 weeks, because there'll be none next week, none the week after that. The third week is when we will come back. But we'll keep you updated on all the little platforms there, Facebook. I guess there's not really a lot of posting to be done on YouTube, but definitely on the Facebook page, Instagram, stuff like that. We'll be putting little things up here and
there. Wow.
Yeah, you're still looking at the weather, aren't you, man? You're just going further and further into the future and realizing it's not going to stop raining.
Well, not this weekend, but next weekend. They're calling for between Friday and Saturday, 15 to 20 millimeters of rain both days.
Oh, yeah, that's just normal. Yeah, back on August 16th. Thank you, Mel. I knew you'd look that up for me.
Okay.
Anyway.
See you later, buddy.
Have a good night, everybody. Get out there, have fun.
Yes, get out there, have fun. You got 2 weeks to enjoy it. You don't have to rush back for Wednesday. hear us, but in 3 weeks you do.
Night all.
Night all.